October 9th, second Saturday of the season, about 7:30. Set up in a little slough here, northeast Ham Slough. I mentioned in the previous video. Um, Throwing some decoys down right over here, back in this corner behind me. And I've set up a little kind of blind for myself right here. Created a little screen with some netting so I can look out over my decoys here. Now I'm kind of close to my decoys, and I have a specific strategy in mind here. Usually I've observed that the ducks will come in on this south end, and they come right down this little chute. It's a real narrow little slough. And they'll come down to this end, and they'll either land or they'll whip around a couple times. Now last year I was set up on that side. I had my decoys out in that little channel right up in there. And first of all, that kind of sucked because the sun came up in the east and it was right in my face, and that's no good. But I had a flock of about 30 or so teal come in right here, right over where my decoys are, and they just landed right there. They didn't whip around, they didn't investigate, they just landed. So what I think is that they came around here and they saw my decoys and they just committed. You know, they were kind of taken off guard. And that in that moment of confusion, that's when you can get your ducks. So the way I've set up now is that if any ducks come over my decoys, like the situation of last year, they'll come over, they'll see the decoys, and in a moment of confusion, they'll land right here for me to shoot them. Or if they come in from the south and come up the channel, so you can't see my decoys when you're coming up the chute here. But my plan is that they'll come out the end of their chute, they'll see my decoys, and they'll be like, oh, look, ducks. And they'll land right here in confusion. Now, generally speaking, I've observed that large flocks of ducks are a lot more cautious. They'll come around and they'll circle several times before they decide to land. Now, every once in a while, you get a flock of like those teal I mentioned last year. They just got caught off guard and landed. That's when you can trick them large flocks, is when they get shocked by your decoys and they commit before thinking about it. Now, like smaller pairs or singles, or not really triples, I've observed that the singles and pairs will be a lot more focused on joining a larger group, or they'll be a lot less cautious and they'll take a lot more risks than ducks would normally take if they were part of a larger group. Now, the funny part is that once you get that third duck in there, you got 3 ducks flying around, their confidence level seems to go way up. I don't know why that is, but that's just something I've kind of observed over the years. So basically, we got Ham Slough in the southwest, and you usually get a lot of guys in there. And my strategy is that they'll bust up a lot of the ducks, and in their confusion, the ducks will branch off into little pairs and singles or whatnot, and they'll be looking for a place to just regroup. So they'll make their way over here, flying relatively low. They'll come in this channel and hopefully see my decoys, and they'll just throw caution to the wind and they'll land right here. So that's kind of the idea I have, but got to have ducks around for that to happen. I heard a little bit of shooting down over there on Hams. not a lot. So I heard some shooting in the east too. It's probably goose hunters. There's not a lot of water to the east. So I came out here before sunrise. It was dark. Threw my decoys out. I kind of set them up in a line along the shore. You can see them sitting there. There's a little pocket here in the corner. I got one group there. And I got a second group here up in that pocket. Now, anywhere in here is going to be my kill range. I want to try to get them up over here by my decoys so I can actually walk out and get them, because this thing gets pretty deep real quick. I don't want to shoot them out there. So when they whip around this corner, either they'll whip right in here, and the idea is to land right in the middle of my decoys, or sometimes the ducks will avoid decoys altogether, and hopefully they'll go up and land in that little channel. So they'll see that the decoys are here. They'll say, oh look, there's ducks, let's land. But instead of joining the group, they'll kind of pick their own spot where they can hang out. Now that generally is like the larger flocks of ducks that are a lot more confident. But if you get, the singles and pairs, they'll be so set on joining the group that they may just whip right in here into the decoys. And that's really why I'm sitting so close to my decoys, is that I don't really anticipate them to land right here. I kind of expect them to land out more in this area, out away from my decoys. I did kick another goose out of here when I came in, just like last year. I got all set up, and I moved into my little spot here, and all of a sudden I heard a big splash, and I heard a goose honking. So it's kind of disappointing that he didn't stick around until I could shoot. But that's also, I'm surprised that I'm finding geese in here, because I've generally observed that when geese take to the water, they pick large bodies of water, and they sit out in the middle. So they can see everything that's going on. But it almost seems like that in the dark of night, they take to these more secluded little sloughs that probably feel a lot more secure. That's an assumption. But I'm kind of thinking that maybe in the morning, tomorrow, Sunday, that I'll come right back here. I won't set up decoys or anything, but I'll just sit right outside the edge of the slough here. And once daybreak comes, I'll stick my head in here and see if there ain't some geese in here. But I don't know, I was kind of hoping there'd be more activity than this. Kind of cool though. I got to hear some coyotes howling in the distance, and there's always pheasants sitting around here crowing, so that's kind of neat. But I have not seen a single duck or goose in the sky during shooting hours. And usually about this time of day, right at daybreak, about an hour after daybreak, that's when like a lot of the activity will take place, where the birds are moving from their resting spot to where they're going to feed for the day and putz around and whatnot. and then later in the afternoon they go back to where they want to chill out for the night. So generally speaking, that's when you want to try to catch your ducks, is in the morning or in the afternoon. And that's more of like a sitting strategy. You throw your decoys out and you wait for the ducks to come by. Whereas a lot of the time I have a much more mobile approach where I go from body of water to body of water, hoping to catch those birds in their feeding areas or whatnot. So I'm probably going to pack this up here pretty soon. See if I can't find some ducks sitting around.